and welcome to the special edition of Love and the Planets as we're going to discuss Venus retrograde for every sign. I'm Armand Diaz.
And I'm Margaret Gray.
Margaret, we have a Venus retrograde in Scorpio, and, we've talked about the general gist of Venus retrograde. People know that, lovers come back and things like that. Let's talk about it specifically for each sign, and I guess we should begin with Scorpio. And you can have that one since you have a Scorpio moon.
Well, thank you so much. That's so kind of you, Armand. Yes, I think for anybody who is Scorpio sun or Scorpio moon, I think Venus in Scorpio, of course, is going to have a resonance. So it's going to, except that, of course, it's retrograde. So it's going to pull us back into those areas of maybe unlived passions or passions that were lived out in a way that weren't complete or maybe left some, unfinished, painful issues. So I think this is a time to really self-nurture a little bit, to be aware that it could touch on some uncomfortable parts emotionally, particularly.
Jump ahead with Sagittarius and say that this is likely to be something that comes from the far distant past because it is in Sagittarius's 12th house. And so the retrograde may bring up things that could be, it could almost feel past life-like, or it could be something that would have a sense of something that maybe happened in the family or something like that at some point in time. So there could be this sense of it being out. It could just be hard to understand what it is for Sagittarius.
So Capricorn, I think because Sun in Capricorn or Moon in Capricorn, there's an aspect of self-containment here. So I think Venus retrograde in Scorpio may feel like a really good time to just review old relationships, old passions, deep emotions, connections with people. And I think it could be actually quite a time of growth where Capricorn really integrates what it's reviewed, what it's revisited about these things. And of course, Capricorn likes to manifest. So once Venus goes direct, it's almost like the Capricorn energies can store that energy and then really build something based on what they learned during this retrograde time in their relationships.
Aquarius, always a little bit of a tough read for Leo, but I think that I'll just play by the book and say that it's in the 10th house for Aquarius. And so there may be career things. There could be things at work that need some review, or might actually be a little stalled temporarily, so that then moving forward when Venus goes direct. So I think that that's probably a safe bet for Aquarius.
That makes a lot of sense. And Pisces, it's water, and Venus, of course, in Scorpio is water going retrograde. And Pisces, Pisces has that somewhat detached energy, which is very different to the Aquarius detached energy. It's that more detached in the sense of spiritual, being kind of connected with something greater rather than wanting to be with the mundane. And I think Venus in Scorpio retrograde may pull that Piscean energy more into deeper realms where it's not fully comfortable, because they're a little maybe feel almost darker than where the Pisces energy wants to be, and yet very necessary to give that deeper layer to the Pisces energy. So again, I think once the Venus goes direct, Sun or Moon in Pisces will kind of feel that they've really possibly deepened their connection with loved ones.
I don't want to speak for Aries, of course, Margaret, but I'll go ahead and do it. I'll tell you what's going on for you. I think that Aries gets the worst and the best of the retrograde because Aries and Scorpio are quincunx to each other. They're very different signs. Aries initiation, Scorpio very much going deep, fire and water. And I think that it could be a very internal time, a lot of going back and assessing things. But then Venus is also retrograding back into Libra, and then that's where she stations to go forward. And so my sense of that is that, if you do enough clearing out and processing, you really can go forward, because it would then be in the 7th house, and that is actually the house of relationship. So I think that, it's the worst of it and the best of it.
Nice read. I approve. I like that. Yes, my sun in Aries is happy. So Taurus, well, Taurus, of course, opposite Scorpio. And so the Venus retrograde is really in a way challenging that Taurian need to try and stay on the surface. I mean, Taurus is so earthy. It's, and the sun in Taurus likes to really know what's going on. And the Venus retrograde in Scorpio can pull that Taurus energy down into the depths a little bit. And that may not feel so comfortable for the sun in Taurus or even a moon in Taurus, because it feels like a little bit like the ground is rumbling underneath it. However, pretty similar to some of the other signs, that if it can bear to go into those depths, it can learn an awful lot about its passionate nature. And of course, Taurus is very sensual, so it can really also add more of that passion. Again, when Venus then goes direct, it can bring that depth into its relationships going forward.
Gemini has a situation that's not too different from Aries in its own way, but I think that rather than the fiery energy of Aries, Gemini has that kind of verbal energy, the kind of let's talk things out, let's sort of let's deal with things as they come up on a verbal level. And again, Scorpio is saying, no, you've got to experience this emotionally, but then goes back into Libra, and all of a sudden, sort of like the skies clear a little bit. So I think that Gemini will get, again, sort of the worst of it, and then sort of the best of it.
So then we come to Cancer, of course, which is a little bit like Pisces in that it's a watery energy, so it can relate more to the Venus in Scorpio. And Cancer, of course, tends to go sideways anyway. So if you have Sun or Moon in Cancer, there's more of a comfort with that retrograde motion and more chance to really review relationships and maybe heal some pain from the past and really to move forward once Venus goes direct in a way which feels like something has been resolved.
Leo has a little bit of extra stress here. I think maybe around the area of home and family, there could be something that's kind of playing into, it may be that something that's going on in the home or around family or something like that is putting pressure on relationships. It can go that way as well.
Virgo, well, Virgo, of course, is such a kind of self-contained sign. And I think when Venus is retrograde in Scorpio, Sun or Moon in Virgo really will analyze and, really, really go into depth in reviewing, analyzing, checking out. And I think what Virgo has to be careful of is not to self-blame. I messed up, I did something wrong. If I'd done it differently, the relationship could have worked. So just to be a little cautious about that.
And Libra, well, Libra's got a little bit of an issue here because Venus is going to retrograde into the sign station and then go forward. It could start off a little bit bumpy. I think that it is another one of those signs that's going to kind of smooth out a little bit. It depends if you're sort of early in the sign of Libra or late in the sign of Libra. You might be feeling it much more intensely that way. But I think that it is another case of you sort of go deep and then sort of clear the air and sort of things, the fog lifts after a little while. So I think that, and Libra might have the most overt, I think, maybe Libra and Scorpio, and perhaps Taurus and Aries would have the most overt sense of something happening, something, going on that's like bringing you back to the past.
And again, a quick reminder, probably not a good time to initiate brand new relationships, also not a good time to get married, or unless you're getting remarried, or unless you've planned it years ago, of course, and you need to go ahead with it. So just to be aware of those kind of things. But it's a great time to heal, to fix, to sort out, to reconnect with past lovers, past loves, and really maybe heal some stuff. So we will see you for our next special edition. Thanks, Armand. Bye-bye.
Bye.